It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now my favorite part of the show, wherein I guess what's in Tim's background today. Tim, I'm going to say a little solemn occasion. It's going to be Joe Biden lying in state in the Capitol Rotunda, our dear departed 46th president of the United States. Am I right about that, Tim?
Not exactly. I wanted a front row seat for the debate. I think I must have misunderstood about the location.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Actually,
for our listeners, it's a big boy restaurant.
Oh yeah, right. Thanks for explaining that. Yeah, Big Boy restaurant, and I remember the Big Boy hamburgers. I mean, that was the precursor to the Big Mac, and it was it was 2 off beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions on a sesame seed bun, pickle as well, I think, but it wasn't a Big Mac.
No, you can't trademark big though. So
yeah, but the thing is that I think the performance of the press conference was probably more akin to one White Castle slider, just enough, just enough to get by. And isn't it the perfect thing for people in our? It threaded the needle. It's right there in the sweet spot because they couldn't get rid of him right after that. I mean, I don't know how this is going to play out over the next few days. We're recording this on Friday morning, right after the press conference. But boy, it seems like he managed to hang in there, like making the, it's almost not quite as good as Freddie Couples making the cut at the Masters and not really going anywhere. More like, Sam Snead hitting the ceremonial first tee shot and not falling down. But, he got through it, right?
Well, it was delayed for an hour. So
sure.
My guess is, because they were saying it's going to be an unrehearsed open press conference. And then he comes straight out and says, well, I got a list of people I have to call on. So essentially, they got all the press there. They went up to 8 people that they knew would be, wouldn't go off script, and said, what questions are you going to ask? Collected the questions and gave him an hour to go through them all. I mean, that's obviously what happened, right?
Well, what's interesting is that, and I assume he wasn't using a teleprompter to answer the questions, but the questions, a lot of them were written out by people, and they were asking 2 at the same time. And he somehow managed, I think the greatest facility he showed was remembering both questions that were asked in the multi-part, because they weren't necessarily related to each other. I thought the media did okay. I mean, it wasn't like they were cross-examining him and being exasperated and saying, like, because they mentioned George Clooney, but it's not like, look, George Clooney just did a fundraiser for you 3 weeks ago, raised $27 million, and then what happens?
Somebody said, I saw this in a meme, that George Clooney, it's Oceans, so the plot of Oceans 14 is that he hides he hides somebody's disability and bilks his friends out of $30 million.
Right. My favorite part was, sure, he confused Putin and Zelensky and Trump and Kamala Harris. Kamala, anybody can do that 15 or 16 times over the course of a 50-minute press conference, but or the entire day. My favorite part, though, was when he said, in his best Grandpa Simpson voice, "I will not bow down to Putin," and it was just like, that showed a robust man, somebody with a great strength to face Putin naked, bare-chested on horseback. Well, It reminded me, I don't know why this reminded me, the late, great WXRT disc jockey Lynn Bramer. He had to play Elton John's Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. So the whole song plays, and he back sells it after the song is done, and he goes, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, Elton John. Tough guy. It's just like, oh yeah, that was really convincing. That was really convincing, Mr. President. It was just, and then of course, the thing is that a lot of people were saying it on the left. Oh, he made these cogent arguments. No question, he was able to muster the malarkey. But so much it was the typical garbage. I mean, at one point he tried to say that Trump had congratulated Putin on the invasion of Ukraine. That is not exactly the way that came down. But it's just of a piece with everything else that he always says. So he was in many respects typical lying, stinking, no character Joe Biden, the same guy we've known for decades and decades. But it doesn't seem like it's enough.
Not enough to win, but enough to keep them from throwing him out. So
yeah, no, it's just perfect, because I think the deadline isn't there a deadline like a July 21st? They've got to come up. I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult after that. He can run out the clock on this.
Yeah, it's already. I think there's 3 states already that that they can't take him off. Unless it's he's 25th or dead, which
Right.
which I'm sure there's a few people talking to Hillary right now. It's like you still know those people, Hill?
Yeah, no, it's I saw Mark Hemingway actually had a pretty succinct analysis on Twitter. I mean, he said there were no questions about the fact that there were no cabinet meetings in 9 months. I mean, that's pretty good. What about and then the whole
the last thing he wants to do is to get the vice president together with the cabinet heads, because
sure, yeah,
they might say, we could
right.
could actually start this thing. I mean, we're all here, right?
It's not on the agenda, but I make a motion that we talk about this right now. Any new business? Yeah, your old business. Let's get rid of you. What about the Parkinson's doctors? I saw Lindsey Graham last night. He was asking, no, I want to see the test. And Biden said he had last been tested. Is this correct? In February? I mean, don't you think we should have this guy hooked up like every day right now? February seems like a long time ago. And then, of course, who believes him?
Well, I think that was one of the points that they got him down to, his whisper, where he said, "I'm tested every day, every day. I'm tested."
No, I like his range there. It's because sometimes he'll start yelling. I mean, he started yelling about abortion, and I thought he was going to implode at that point. But he held back. Then he goes into a whisper. So that's quite a.
That was supposed to be his grand finale. I mean, you could tell that was supposed to be okay. All the rest of the fireworks at once. That it was, but he had already promised one more question to Haley,
right? Because he wants to get the abortion mention in there, because that's all the Democrats have to go on, apparently.
And Project 25,
Project 2025, whatever that is, and then. Lindsey Graham had said, take the exam, Mr. President. He doesn't believe it. Yeah. Then he'll gratuitously talk a nice canned line about Trump putting his golf score in before he hits his first tee shot. But Mr. Biden, you're claiming you're a 6 handicap. I could beat you with a sandwich and a putter. So oh my goodness! And then he did trip over. It was really uncomfortable when he was trying to get out the word neurologist, because that's one word you really want to be able to say when you're talking about your neurological deficit. You want to be able to say neurologist, and he did trip for that. But just the overall thing was, he did touch the bases. He did make the arguments. Had the boilerplate liberal malarkey, but it just looks so old, and nobody in the world thinks he's going to last 4 years or 4 months for that matter. So it's just, and the cry, it doesn't seem like it broke anybody's will to try to convince him to get out of the race. And But I think he's in it. Don't you?
There's no question.
I mean, he's not going.
Yeah, there's no
actually
question he's
then
going to leave.
shows- Yeah, right. Which then shows what a horse's ass he is, right? Because he's pulling the Ruth Bader Ginsburg now, and it just shows that it's all about him. I saw this from Charles Gasparino yesterday. A CEO who knows Biden well says no effing way he's dropping out. Joe Biden couldn't care less what the elite in his party thinks, what the elite fundraisers think, or anyone else. He really hates them. He'll take their money, but he knows they look down on him as some rube. Plus, he thinks he earned the presidency after trying so many times. There's no way he's giving it up to go down in history as a loser who dropped out because he isn't tough enough. He only cares about his wife and family, and he'll tell everyone else to F off. And, I just love that, if there's ever an addendum to Profiles in Courage, it won't be including Joe Biden. The most you talk about Trump being maniacal, but this takes it. This absolutely takes it. He's going to take the party down with him. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, I don't know if he's going to take the party down with him, but he's definitely going to take the wing of the party that's been ruling it for the past since Obama down with him. I mean, there's still the Manchin Kennedys that the wing of the party that have kind of been silent for a while, and I think the Obama wing is destined for failure.
It's just, I just love it. I just love, I don't know who I enjoy more, seeing scorn, the Bidens or the Hollywood types like George Clooney. It's just, it's festive. And I'm totally getting off on this, maybe a little too much. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Rant.
The song, according to their source, is an original composition, and it's essentially Jill Biden's personal Hail to the Chief. This has caused, they report, amusement and confusion within the band, with some remarking that in the many years they've played in the group, this is the first time the group has had to provide the First Lady with an exclusive entrance theme. Everyone's standing like she's the president.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Now, everybody's ridiculing this fanfare for the fraudulent First Lady, I think it's called.
A fanfare for the ersatz president, I think it should be.
Yeah, I mean, is it fanfare for the common man, Aaron Copland? No. Is it even yakety sax? No. Pardon my Benny Hill. So but first of all, I mean, what is the Marine? I mean, the Marines are looking for a few good men. They used to, not a few good trumpeters who could.
Well, there's always been a Marine band, and I remember distinctly that originally when Clinton was first inaugurated, anytime he would come out of the plane, they would play the Liberty Bell, which is the Sousa music that they use for Monty Python, and they used to use it traditionally before they started using it for Clinton. They would use it for foreign leaders dignitaries that they did not care for. So
I didn't realize that was called the Liberty Bell. I know that it was a Sousa hit, but
So if like somebody
I knew they weren't playing Dixie for him, but
no,
you ain't just whistling that, buddy.
But if it was a leader from North Korea or Russia or something that was visiting, or maybe even France during the Libya thing, that's what the Marine band would play, and no one ever caught on till they started playing it for Clinton.
I see.
Someone cued them into it. Hillary's probably the one who found out about it, and that was that ixnay on the
but Clinton took it in good stride, because I think that one time he heard that, and he was just had his bare butt at the piano seat and said, and now for something completely different. I won't lie. Let's move on.org. So is she egomaniacal? Is she Edith Wilson? Woodrow's wife, who actually was the de facto president.
It
in the last 13 months.
it certainly seems that way.
Yeah.
It-
So yeah,
It's
you know,
I don't know why she's held out this long. I don't know why she would have, if you know why he would have, if not for her saying, "I want it yet."
I mean,
Is there a more annoying voice than Jill Biden in American politics?
Jill
I mean,
Biden? Oh,
Jill Biden.
yeah. You know, I couldn't name her voice in 5 shrieking notes. I couldn't do it. I don't even know what
Broadway.
Okay, there you go.
As unique as the breakfast tacos in San Antonio.
Well, you know, I mean, think about it. Think about it. Somebody who's got a doctor in education would be the kind of person who want to be flattered by the Marine Corps band, I guess.
It's got the same voice as the shushing librarian.
Right. So there are the diehards. I don't know how soon they'll be peeling off of Biden. I mean, for example, Chuck Schumer, if he flip-flopped hamburgers on the grill as well as he flip-flopped on Joe Biden, he'd know how to make a good burger and know when to put the cheese on it, for crying out loud. But you got like Whoopi Goldberg. Actually, I think was quoted as saying that she didn't care if Biden pooped his pants. She would still be in favor of him. I get that.
Which devotees of our show know that we've already indicted him on that charge several times over. So,
of course.
So maybe she's sharing a little inside information. Maybe she met with him in one of those moments.
I think one of the most embarrassing questions I ever saw at a press conference was when Rod Blagojevich was about to go to prison and he didn't want to leave, and he kept talking ad nauseum at this press conference because he was about to take the bus to prison, and he kept coming back to that he had provided pap smear tests for Illinois women, and we were playing the pap smear drinking game while watching that news conference. But the best question was Chuck Gowdy, like after Blagojevich finally gave up, he goes up to Patty and says, "Are you going to stick with him?" Which was so cringe-inducing. He would ask that question, but then it may be eclipsed by, and I didn't actually see the question asked, but I read about it. I just don't enjoy Gapers blocks like that. But Peter Ducey actually asked KJP or whatever her initials are, the press secretary, asked her, how is he going to be, if he doesn't function after 8 o'clock, who gets called about an incoming nuke at 11? And I mean, it's just, as we've already established, he'd be up for the call at 3 a.m. because he's probably peeing at the time. But
well, it's kind of funny that the 3 a.m. call has been set back 4 hours
right
now.
It's
the early bird call at 3 a.m.
Putin, do me a solid, buddy. Just try to send your multiple independent reentry vehicle ICBM toward us at about 8 o'clock Eastern time, because that's about all I can handle.
Between 10 and 4, but not around noon, because that's when he lies down for his nap. And forget about the weekends.
I understand that.
Nothing between 4 p.m. Friday and 10 a.m. Monday.
Right.
Please.
No problem. And then don't forget about Ramadan. We've got to honor that as well. So, all the polling right now, and of course, as everybody surrounds Biden now, or it actually can't get to him because he's impenetrable. Running interference for him are Hunter and Dr. Jill. But apparently the campaign was commissioning a poll to see how well Kamala would do, and supposedly this was going to, if she did well vis-a-vis Trump, this would help persuade Biden to drop out. I don't see how that works, but that's one of the things that they were.
Well, it's called the 25th Amendment, because if they can tell Kamala that, you're polling really high, really think you have a chance to win, she might pull the string. She might actually.
That's interesting that she would do that. And then of course when when the cabinet would convene and she'd start talking, they'd say, they cry uncle and say, we can't listen to you anymore. Yeah, he's out. Please. Enough.
That's the number 2
Great.
most annoying voice in politics.
Yeah.
Followed up by Elizabeth
of
Warren.
Course, yeah, the story came out that, and this is all like coming out like in the last 18 hours as we're taping, that they really didn't have genuine cabinet meetings, that they're all staged. That Biden would come in and there would be a script for the cabinet meetings. I mean, I don't know how much that went on in prior presidencies, but they're certainly making it sound like, I mean, it's all Weekend at Bernie's with him, for the last couple of years. But or are they just trying to make it worse than it actually was? I mean, who do you trust on this? Because they didn't have any of these stories like a couple of weeks ago when everybody in the right-wing media was being accused of administering cheap fakes. So who knows?
Yeah. It's been going on for a while. I think we all knew it. I mean,
we knew it, but we're biased. It's just
another example of the media laptopping us.
Right. So here's the question. I mean, Biden was supposedly heartened by ABC, Washington Post, Ipsos, whatever poll that showed that the race was tied, even after this was the latest poll out. Of course, it was a national poll. On the other hand, you see things like that. New York could possibly be in play. That's a stretch, but
no, I don't know. I don't know if I disagree with that because here's the thing. There's been an issue for a while where the urban areas of every state, like Chicago and Illinois, does not vote the same way as the rest of Illinois. And,
right.
It's the same way in Minnesota. It's the same. And I'm sure it's the same way in New York. That a lot of upstate people really don't care for what's been going on in Washington. So what's happening is the black vote is shifting to Trump. They're losing their ability for the urban areas to dominate the state.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat shifting.
It's somewhat shifting, but it doesn't take much of a shift.
Yeah, right. All he has to get is, well, he was doing better among minorities than any Republican, in the last generation or two. But yeah, Biden's argument was that the polls are still close, and who knows what happens with anybody else in there. I mean, that's why Biden was nominated, was because everybody else was a crazy lefty. And is it
time for my betting odds? Or
yeah, let's hear him. Let's hear him.
38 points ahead. Trump is 38 points ahead. Oh, wait a minute. That's 38 points ahead of Harris. Excuse me.
Okay,
Excuse me. He's a 44.
There you go. That's why
7 points ahead of Biden.
Harris is a viable candidate, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Republicans should cancel their convention. It can only harm them by letting Trump show his face. But we'll see. I mean, it seems like this story changes every single day, and who knows, by the weekend, Biden could actually be out of the race. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson, and we ended up with Richard Nixon. I'm going to work hard every day to transform this city. That's what it takes to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. And everybody
Bruce Will, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. I am so glad that Mayor Johnson made a reference to Richard Nixon, because these are references that I get. I mean, I voted for Nixon. It was the first presidential vote I had was in 72. You know, those old voting booths where you had the big lever to close the curtains. I mean, it was a very Wizard of Oz like situation. And now there are these little cardboard boxes.
Yeah, I
migrants could live in.
I liked those things because as a Catholic boy, they reminded me of a confessional.
There you go. So I confessed that I actually voted for Tricky Dick in '72, and I was
When I saw this headline, Johnson blames Nixon.
Oh, there you go.
I thought it was a historic headline from Vietnam.
Right. Sure, there we go. So and then of course the Sun Times the next day came out with a correction saying, oh no, he didn't do that. And I read the correction, and the correction didn't correct anything as far as I could see, because he said Black Death is unfortunately been accepted in this country for far too long, and we had a chance 60 years ago to fix that, and people mocked President Lyndon B. Johnson, and we got Nixon. That sounds like you're blaming Nixon. I mean, own it. It's fine
for the Black Death.
Oh,
I thought that was one of the kings that was responsible for that.
Well,
one of those guys that catapulted livestock over the wall.
Right. Look, right now, I mean, George Washington is thanking Richard Nixon for taking the heat, because we were about to tear down the Washington Monument, but it really starts with Nixon. You remember Woody Allen in the Bananas? I mean, he's kicking himself now. That he didn't have a line for that Che-like despot who takes over in Bananas. Remember, he ordered the citizens to speak Swedish and wear underwear on the outside of their clothes, and for kids who are not yet 16 to now be 16. But he didn't think to actually go back 5 decades and blame Nixon for everything. I mean, oh my goodness. And do you remember when Obama actually told Bill O'Reilly at a Super Bowl halftime interview that Nixon was a liberal, and Obama actually had something there? Would Mayor Johnson like to be informed of the the family assistance plan? And I mean, Nixon was a statist, but for some reason he's the one to blame.
Well, they never forgave him for his working on the McCarthy.
Well, no, absolutely. Helen Gahagan Douglas, Alger Hiss. You always will have Nixon to kick around, apparently, well into the future.
And even though he tried to make up with the left as much as he could, and nope, they weren't having any of it. No.
Yeah, no. I'm just maybe it's
you made screenwriters have to use pseudonyms. How dare you?
How about? I think David Frost should have a posthumous interview with Nixon, and ask him about Mayor Johnson.
Well, Rich Little's still alive, so he could probably.
Rich Little's still alive. David Fry had the Nixon imitation, I think, in which he said, "I take the responsibility, but not the blame." And that seems to me like what you get with Johnson saying it, but the Sun Times saying that he didn't say it. So congratulations for the equivocation right there. Yeah, I just I didn't think that the mayor could beclown himself any more than he has done in his short time in office, but he managed to do it right there. Let's see. Actually, Nixon is maximizing his incumbency. Remember, maximizing the incumbency? That was a line from the Watergate era. How do you maximize your incumbency 5 decades after the original time? Watergate didn't stop him. Y2K didn't stop him. Angel Reese can't stop him. So nobody can stop Richard Nixon. Congratulations to him on that. Did you see? So our dear friend Mancow, I now see him on Twitter, and he tweeted. I never know with Mancow because he's very theatrical, and
sure.
You know how I've been fooled. Like, for example, that big boy picture behind you. Remember when there was a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse who looked like the big boy, and I thought that's actually how he looked now, but it was a doctored photo. But so Mancow tweeted a picture. He apparently was on the commuter train going by Ravinia, the posh North Shore, and there are 2 people in there. I believe a man and a woman, and
I don't know.
The man has his hands inside the pants of the. I don't know which one's the man and which one's the woman, but has his hands inside the pants of the other one, and as they're sitting on the commuter train.
That's the photos of, for those that don't have the visual, for the photos from the upper level of the Metro train.
Right, and peering down.
Yeah, looking down. And,
I say, roll over Rosa Parks. This is what you fought for. It's
the irony is that it wasn't too long ago that would have been a segment on Mancow's radio show.
Right, would have been celebrated perhaps.
Hey, I have two people having sex right here in the studio coming up after this.
Yes. Right. No, but he's always been, very, very right wing.
Well, he found Jesus, and
no question about that.
And then his minister got indicted for manslaughter or something, or tax fraud, or I think.
No.
But his babysitter.
I didn't follow his show on a daily basis. I did listen to it a little bit. Got a kick out of it.
Well, no, his minister was in Northwest Indiana, so all the scandals that happened to his minister were in the paper here.
Right, I did. There's only so many controversies I can address. So, did you see where the Duke Medical School says that timeliness is part of white supremacy? Now,
that's kind of a backwards way to say CPT, isn't it? CPT. Are you familiar with CPT, Bruce?
CPT chat?
No, CPT. It's
GPT.
It's a term where people of color are on a different time schedule.
Right. Oh, right. So, like in South America, you show up for an appointment 20 minutes later.
Yeah,
they're not bound by the clock.
Exactly.
I understand it. In Europe, they're like that too. And, it's very much a part of the Protestant ethic that, we're on time.
Yep.
And so, maybe this is part of white supremacy.
Well, it could be that our nation was founded with railroads, whereas Europe was founded with sundials. So it could have a lot to do with it. So there's about a half hour each way with a sundial.
Well, all I can say is this comes from Duke Medical School, and I know that a lot of cases against doctors are a hinge on the fact that they didn't do things in a timely manner. Like the diagnosis could have been as little as 5 minutes late, and they're going to get sued for malpractice. So, you might want to think that we don't have a sliding scale. What's the standard of care? Is the standard of care different for one doctor over another? I'm not sure about that. You might want to do things on time. I mean, hey, at least Mussolini made those trains in Europe run on time, so that they were getting with the program.
Yeah, but you didn't like where the stations were.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. So, did you see where former Senator Jim Imhoff was 89 years old and he died, and the headline, I think in the New York Times, was Senator Imhoff, climate change denier, dies. Now, and then people were coming up with all these headlines, about terrorists who died and were not referred to as terrorists and just as religious leaders. But that's CNN had the same thing, a climate change denier.
Yeah, that's like Clinton's memorial saying paramour of Monica Lewinsky.
Right.
Yeah, it was a big deal because he brought a snowball into the floor of the House, if you remember, there, the Senate.
Sure.
And said, look, it was, I don't know when it was like June or something, and he brought in a snowball and said, see, how can you say there's climate change? And they mock that, but yet all summer long, the heat wave, that's proof of climate change. But yeah, a snowball in June, no.
Yeah, no. I always believe that tragedy plus zero equals comedy. So I never wanted to delay. Oh, because the window closes the Overton window on destroying a man's reputation after he dies, it closes so fast because we're on to the next thing so quickly. So I understand, leaping on it right in the obituary headline itself, but
it's a good thing he didn't die of heat stroke, because
Yeah.
they would be
Thank
choking
goodness.
on the irony.
Thank goodness. And finally, did you see where New York paid $4 million for a study to find out that trash bins work? And they showed Mayor Eric Adams with a trash bin as opposed to just the plastic trash that's thrown at by the curb. I don't know. I think I could have done that for $1.380. I don't think you needed $4 million on to pay McKinsey for a study on that.
Well, you know who runs the trash bin lobby.
Sure, got it. Totally got it. Enough said about that. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
This was game one of the series in Boston, and I had just decided I didn't want to go into the CIA because that was what I originally wanted to do. Plan. And then I saw so many women in sports media during that series, and I thought, ooh, that could be kind of cool. And then as the years unfolded, here I am pursuing a career in it. So thankful for the representation that got me here.
It was going into my senior year of college. That's when I knew I wanted to do this. So it wasn't like I was a kid and always dreaming of it. And then I'm trying to get a sports job. And I can't get one. So I started on news. You saw that weather coverage. And then I moved to Milwaukee. And then I worked at Big Ten Network. I still do. And so it was a grind. It was never giving up and always believing in myself.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. So the Cubs had an all-female announcing team on Sunday. I didn't see that game. I did see Saturday's game, though, because I tend during the golf season, after I play a round of golf, to go visit my mother and go to her apartment. And she's got marquee. She actually pays for the Cub games. I won't do it. The Cubs aren't contenders. I've got to be judicious in my in my selection of TV programming. So, but we were watching the Cub game, and Beth Mullins, who was part of this trio that you just saw, was doing the game with Jim DeShays the day before, probably a little prep for the great day of an all-female announcing team. And my only real complaint was, she was fine, was the Cubs in that game didn't get a runner past second base in that Saturday game. So they probably should have had an all-female team on the field the next day as well. They couldn't have done worse. In any event, our crack producer.
How were they? Were they? Well,
our crack producer, Chris, says that Beth Mullins is better than Jason Benetti.
Wow.
So, I'm a fuddy-duddy. I was listening to going to pick up some food yesterday and heard Pat Hughes on the radio, and he's basically the voice of the Cubs. And a lot of it is just the sound, the timbre of your voice. Most baseball announcers have these really rich voices. Sure. And, Beth Mullins has a rich voice for a woman, but I would liken it to, if you switch from Pat Hughes to her, it would be like going from taking the ivy off and just painting the walls of green.
But were they able to keep a conversation going about baseball when nothing's happening? Because that's part of the talent of being a baseball announcer.
I got to tell you,
right?
Pat Hughes didn't exactly do the greatest job either. They were talking, I don't know, between the adult diaper commercials that they have to throw in on the radio broadcast and actual action, even though there's only a few seconds between pitches now, because thankfully they sped up the game, they still had time for some reason to talk about try to figure out what Liberace's first name was. And so I don't know how highfalutin. Well, that's what I was thinking. So I think it was like Wadaslaw or something like that. But I know I remember his brother George. I do remember that. But I wanted to call in and win some a lifetime supply of adult diapers. But they were that's what you do during a ball game. The day before, there wasn't a lot of grist for good baseball talk because the Cubs were so dull the day before. So I mean, it wasn't necessarily a good test. But and I've got to think that if you're if you're a trailblazer like that, you're usually pretty careful. You're not going to be doing the Harry Carey names backwards thing, at least until your 10th or 15th year on the job. So, I get it. I mean, she was fine. Now, Chris is telling me that one of the announcers there had never even played softball, was actually a soccer player, but whatever. I mean, that's fine. Sure. I mean, I'm obviously envious because I wanted to be a baseball announcer, play-by-play, and got to do only one inning ever, wow. Which is great. That I mean, to actually get to do one inning is probably more difficult than doing 50 years like Vin Scully. I mean, how do you get to do one inning? But I did, and not even in my own voice, and the voice of that character I did, Chet Chit Chat. And Chris is saying that the soccer player is the hot one, Taylor McGregor, in the middle. So okay, yeah, so who cares? No, they're fine, they're good.
I have to rewind a little bit here to show you how ignorant I am. Yeah, so you have to pay if you want to watch all the Cubs games now.
There you go. Yeah, see, a little bit of a history here. They used to be free on Channel 9, and then they were free on cable, but now you have to subscribe to the Marquee, the service. And they've got all kinds of programming surrounding the Cub games, everything you never wanted to know about the Cubs. Like Patrick Wisdom, the player, they will actually show you Patrick Wisdom's wisdom teeth. You'll get the all the X-rays.
What are they going to do in the off seasons? Reruns of Bleacher Bums?
That's not a bad idea. I'm sure they're game for programming. I think we could audition for something. Yeah, no.
Here's the thing. Okay, the reason why the Cubs kind of became America's team, and Cubs fan, I think.
Tell me something I don't know right now. Okay. No, go ahead and say
because they were free on WGN,
and they played afternoon games. They got generations. Chris is saying they actually show women's soccer on Marquee. Okay, but
is there men's soccer? I thought it's all women's sport.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So oh boy. So what happened was you had the generations of Cubs fans were created because kids could come home from school and watch the games on TV. Huh. And they were afternoon games. You could even go down to Wrigley Field in the afternoon. And that was how they established their base over many decades. But then they became just another night team, another world champion. Fungible world champion.
The logic of not making you pay for a Cubs game is very similar to not televising the Blackhawks.
Explain, please. No, but I get it. Yeah, no, I do. But yeah, so I'm just a fuddy-duddy, and that's all there's. And in my, our type will die out soon, and I'm just wondering how close any team is to having a woman. It's not a novelty act, but actually doing the play-by-play on a regular basis. I am wondering about that.
Well, it's kind of difficult because they can't see, they don't see the fouls. They expect you to know what the foul was.
Well,
and they can remember all the previous fouls.
Yeah, well, no question about it. Those Liberty gibbets too. They're like Chuck Schumer. So, but we are kind of regressing. As many as one step forward, two steps backwards. There's a petition right now in sports to get the Washington Redskins name back. And that would be a step. I mean, if they do that, we're going to see the Land O'Lakes Butter Girl pretty soon, which we should because butter is like $7.90 a package right now, and we ought to get something there. But
did you do that when you were a little kid? You used to cut out the carton and fold
little
it
kid.
So you could,
how about 2 years ago?
So you could literally see the Land O'Lakes Girl?
I was so lonely, I took some comfort there. When I waited, when I was waiting for the Saturday Evening Post to come and the pictures of Raquel Welch. But yeah, so the Redskins, I mean, there's I don't think it'll go anywhere. I mean, they just got through changing the Cleveland Indians to the Guardians. Now, I mean, you're going in the opposite direction. You're going to rechristen the team the Washington Redskins.
Well, I understand they want to go back too. That there's a big movement to wear your Chief Wahoo gear to the game.
Is that part of it?
Yep.
Part of it too. Oh, yeah. I think this is the collision of Trumpian versus Bidenian politics. I think it's what is it part of Project 2025 to rename the Washington team the Redskins?
It should be.
Part of it. Yeah.
They could actually get a lot more support between Project 2025 if that's what it is. Because I mean, let's be honest, the football fans
I don't even know what Project 2025 is. What? I'm sorry, but I don't even know what. I don't even think Trump knows what Project 2025 is.
Of course not. It's 887 pages. Who has actually
Can
read?
You give it to me in a tweet. I mean, seriously. Oh, brother. So yeah, we have to close every show with finding out how Chris, our producer, is faring because Steve Bannon is not doing a show anymore, and that's how I believe Chris spent 4 hours a day. Chris, are you okay? What are you doing in lieu of Steve Bannon?
Well, the guest hosts suck, and I am no longer 4 hours. I maybe get 2 hours depending on who the guest host is.
Really?
So if this was a plan to like have the the hardcore Bannon people or keep them from consulting with the campaign or whatever, it's at least working on people listening side of things. Because he has
would you trade? I mean, it's Steve Bannon, having to go to jail for contempt. I mean, if Merrick Garland went to jail for contempt, would that satisfy you? But of course, who cares? Who needs the her transcript anymore? We've got Biden, on TV all the time. You don't need the her transcript.
Yeah, I actually don't want the her transcript because it would probably that would be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, we don't really need that. We need Biden. We absolutely need Biden to be at the convention in Chicago, and the crowd is cheering and they're yelling 4 more minutes, 4 more minutes, and then get rid of him. And then on the 103rd ballot, nominate who? I mean, who else? I'm seeing Michelle Obama. I'm seeing Kamala. Maybe somebody comes out of the woodwork.
The trouble is the Michelle Obama and Kamala, they score equally on the DEI scale. Black woman equals black woman. The only way Michelle Obama could get an edge up on her is if she admits she's trans.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.